So this video is going to be a bit about some things to think about if you're getting into winging on the ice. I think this is something that's going to get bigger and bigger with the explosion of wing foiling. There's lots of people having wings. Many of them, like me, live in a cold climate where there's ice during the winter, and it's a great way of having a lot of fun with your wings during winter months. Unless you're one of the crazy people who goes out and wings when it's freezing temperatures and you have to beat the ice off of your wing, and I'm not quite there yet. The other thing that's been exploding is Nordic skating. That's getting more and more popular, and so more and more people are getting out on natural ice, and some of them may be a bit wing curious and might want to get into this in addition to just Nordic skating. So just some things around safety and equipment, wings, skates, skis. This will not be a completely comprehensive video on safety because that would just be too involved. But I want to give just a little bit of food for thought for when you're going to do this. So let's get started with safety. So safety-wise, the main thing is you're out on natural ice, and the main thing is don't go through the ice. Don't fall through the ice. Now that's something when you're just doing normal skating, that's kind of the main idea. Don't go through the ice. In addition, when you're winging with all the speed you have, you don't want to go through the ice even a little bit. So in my mind, you should never go all the way through the ice when you're winging because you've checked the ice well enough to know that that's not an option. That the ice is safe enough to not fall through. But in addition, there's some more subtle things where you can go through just a little bit. And so looking at this picture here, you see a lot of really nice ice. I was out that day and I had a great time all the way until I went through the ice just a little bit. And you probably can't see it in this, but I'll just click through a few pictures here, a little closer to where the scene of the crime is here. From a different angle, the scene of the crime is still there. Now you can probably see there's some air bubbles in the ice there. That's actually from where I went through. And here you can actually see this is where I went through. This is where my body hit. Right there and there is where my skates went through. So I'll try to make this quick, but my buddy and I went out. There was very little wind. We just skated. We skated all over the place. Saw no hazards. Not one. The ice was just beautiful. But then a little bit of wind came. We picked up the wings, started winging. I wasn't going terribly fast, but I was just cruising along, having a great time. And right there and right there, that's where my skates went through. And right there is where my body hit the ice. Because when my skates went through the ice, I encountered most of Newton's laws, and my skates stopped. I didn't, but I went down very hard on the ice. This is not a fall and slide kind of fall. It's your skates stop and your body goes bam and hits the ice. So I broke through the ice there. Now there was no chance of me going all the way through because there was thick ice underneath, but this thin layer on top really got my attention. So again, there it is from a distance. That's where I went through the ice. That's where my body hit. You can't really see the skates. But the telltale here that I learned, I had to just teach myself this, was this circular shape here. And very quick, what had happened was there had been snow on top of the ice. It had melted. And the water had collected a little bit more in this area than in other areas. So it looks something like this, where this white stuff here is the ice, underneath is the main body of water, but on top you have this pool, and warm wind is blowing and it causes this pool of water to circulate around and around on top of the ice. Gets warmed when it's up on top, and then it goes underneath and melts into the ice. And so this particular spot was just a deeper spot than the others, and it just hadn't completely frozen yet. But very difficult to see. When I finally analyzed it and said, I think this is the telltale sign here, I was able to find one more, only one, in this huge expanse of ice. And I saw it from almost 50 meters away. I said, I think there's one over there. And my buddy and I went and checked, and sure enough, there was one there. So again, it's not just about not going through the ice, completely, the dramatic stuff, but it's very dramatic to go through just a little bit. So learn about the ice. This video is not about that. You have to go to other sources, and it's just a lifelong process of learning about natural ice. It's actually quite interesting. So either find a friend who knows and they can teach you, or go online, but learn about natural ice. So bare minimum safety gear, I would say, helmet, absolutely. Your most important piece of safety equipment is your brain, so you do need to take care of it, and you may be using it later. I recommend goggles, because at high speeds the cold air can cause your eyes to water up and stuff, and then you're not seeing as well. I don't have one, but a helmet with a face guard is not a bad idea, so that if you go down the ice, you can also protect your face. Also, bare minimum, you need ice picks of some kind. These are used to help you to climb back up if you were to go all the way through. Again, I think when you're winging, it's almost inexcusable, but I have ice picks with me even when I know I could drive a truck on the ice. It's just something, to me, you just get used to having it, like putting your seatbelt on your car, in your car. You generally don't use your seatbelt, but you just put it on. So always have those. Now, you need some way of checking the depth of the ice. Nordic skaters typically use these poles. They're much longer than just this picture here. They're maybe, I don't know, 1.5 meters or something. And they're a great way to check the ice quickly, to just, stab holes in the ice and check. But impractical to have with you when you're winging. They're just too long and cumbersome. I use ice screws that people use for ice climbing, and I recommend getting 2. They have multi-purposes. The one is to check the depth of the ice. The ones I have are 15 centimeters long, and where the threads are is like 10 centimeters, and then it's 5 more here. So it's very easy to get an eye on how deep the ice is. You feel it as soon as it goes through. It just gets suddenly easy to turn, and then you can just check, well, how deep was that? When I rig up, I put one in the ice and attach my wing to it so it doesn't blow away while I'm rigging up. I rig up without my skates on and put them on afterwards. And when I leave my rig up spot, I leave that screw in and I attach whatever gear I've left behind. I attach it all in a bag to the screw, because if you're on smooth ice and it's windy, almost anything will just blow away on smooth ice if it's windy. So it's a great way of keeping your gear in the same spot so you can come back to it. And I have one more that I carry with me. That way when I'm out, if I want to stop and do some checking of maybe a new area of ice, I have an ice screw that's compact, easy to carry with me, and I can check the ice. So these are bare minimum things in my brain: helmet, goggles, ice picks, and some way of checking the depth of the ice. And again, I think ice screws are the best for winging on ice. Extra safety gear. I have all of this, by the way. I think some kind of cleats for your feet are important, both for when you go down, if you're going to rig up on the ice and you're just in your shoes or boots. Ice is slippery. You can fall and hurt yourself even before you ever get going. It just makes you're just more steady, so, and more sure while you're walking around the ice. The other thing is sometimes just to get to the ice can be more dangerous and adventuresome than even being on the ice itself. It could be very icy, like when you're trying to get down to the ice, and having something like that for your feet can get you down there way more safely. After my crash that I talked about earlier, and when I crashed, then I landed on my shoulders, or on my shoulder, hard, and my head. Now my head had a helmet. My shoulder did not have shoulder pads. I now have shoulder pads because I know if I fall like that again, I'm going down sideways and I will land on my shoulder. So I feel more secure, and some kind of butt hip protection I think is also smart. One of my hips is titanium. I do not want a hip injury. I wear pants that have, not like those in the picture, but that have padding, and feel way more secure. Knee pads, very good when you're skating. Elbow may be a little less important, but they often come as a set. So I have on all those things: knees, elbows, shoulders, and hips when I wing with skates. So wings, we have inflatable wings, the ones we're using for wing foiling, and in addition to that, we have something called a kite wing, which fewer people know about. But my theory is that wings for wing foiling were actually inspired by these. These have been around a long time. So both are available. If you're a wing foiler, you probably already have an inflatable wing. Doesn't mean you can't go out and buy a kite wing. There are reasons you could do that. If you're a Nordic skater and don't plan on wing foiling, you might want to look at this depending on what you're interested in doing. So I'll just talk about some of the differences. Inflatable wings, in my mind, are going to be better in light wind. It's easier to rig. They're going to be a bit more maneuverable because they're so light. If you're out skating and the wind dies completely, you can just hold on to the front handle and let the wing just drift behind you, because you're skating. When you're skating, you create wind, and that the wing will just fly behind you, and you'll barely notice it, and you can skate for quite long distances, just letting that float behind you. That's a cool plus. And they're of course multi-purpose because you can use them both on the ice, and you can use them wing foiling. Kite wings, on the other hand, they're going to give you a higher top speed. They're going to be more stable, especially at higher speeds, and they're going to tolerate higher loads since it's a stiff fiberglass or carbon frame, depending on which one you get, and the material is stiffer materials with battens. So they'll tolerate higher loads, higher speeds, and I think a very cool piece of kit to have if you're a snow kiter, especially, and you're up where in mountains where there's like some flattish areas like lakes, and it's just nuking winds. And in my mind, snow kiting in super high winds is just not that much fun. But if you have a flattish area and you want to get on your skis, a kite wing would be very cool to save the day, where you can have a session and go, fast and have a lot of fun with way less safety issues than you would have with a kite. Now, there's kind of a new kid on the block that I think is worth mentioning, and that's this new Ozone Fusion wing. The Fusion wing is a double-sided wing. So over here you see the whole thing, and in this picture they've taken away the one side so you can see inside. So inside there are these fabric ribs that give structure to the two sides, and these are vents so that air can go inside to basically inflate this, much like a foil kite. And this is a very new product. It would be very advanced to use for wing foiling and probably just for racers and people who don't fall much. But when I think about it, this will be probably an extremely fast, stable wing. It won't be exactly like a kite wing, but it might be the best of both worlds in a sense. If you were just going to get one wing, but they're not cheap. So I just thought that it was worth mentioning because I think this is kind of a new area. So on to skates. The two most popular skates are going to be Nordic skates and hockey skates. In addition, there are bandy skates and speed skates. And you can also mess around with homemade things. But I'll just talk about these for now. So it's not just about the skate itself, or there's a package here. And when you look at Nordic skates, they have a longer blade. Speed skates also, longer blade. Longer blades are going to be generally better at higher speeds. Hockey, shorter blade, and it's going to be more turny, but less stable at higher speeds. Bandy skates are something that maybe not a lot of people are familiar with, but they're very worth a look at. And what I'll do is show you now some other characteristics of the blades to think about, so what it is you're trying to do. And that is to compare a hockey skate and a bandy skate. So underneath here, this is the bandy skate, and the one up here is the hockey. And when you see these straight lines that are put in, you see that the bandy skate is a bit longer and also much, much flatter. So it's not totally flat, but there's very little curve in the bottom, whereas a hockey skate has a much more pronounced curve in the bottom. So you can think that on a hockey skate, there's much less skate sort of in constant contact with the ice, so much shorter. This makes them much more turny, so they're a lot of fun if you're carving and turning, but as you start to come up to higher speeds, they're going to become unstable and start to wobble, which is not much fun. Now, hockey skates can be ground to a flatter profile. So the way I've heard it described is in feet, and I think most hockey skates, if you buy them off the shelf, they're going to be from 7 to maybe 9 feet in the, I guess it's radius. I'm not sure if it's radius or diameter. So it just means that the skate is part of a large circle. I had my hockey skates reground to 13 feet to make them flatter, and it made a huge difference. I can handle much more speed now, but they're still pretty turny and fun. I am bandy skate curious at this point because to me it looks like a good combination of speed and maneuverability in my mind. So that's something to think about. And the other thing with the skate is how much sort of curve in the bottom, in the edges. This could be completely flat too. I believe Nordic skates are completely flat. But the more sort of deep this is, you get more grip with a skate like this, but you handle speed better with a skate like this. So characteristics like this help you to determine how the skate's going to behave. For me, I have hockey skates and I really enjoy them, especially these that I've ground a bit flatter. I like the extra support the boot gives. So it has more of an alpine ski feel to it. I like to carve a lot. I like to turn a lot. I'm not necessarily hunting the highest speed possible. I like to go fast, but for me, a bit slower where you can turn a lot, in my mind, is more fun. Nordic skates are quite cool. Definitely handle speed better. For me, I would prefer not to have the lifting heel, but people do it. Go quite fast with skates just like this. It is possible, if you want to tinker a bit, to instead of rigging this like cross-country binding, you can put on alpine bindings on these blades and use alpine boots. And that to me would be a real speed machine. I am at this point bandy skate curious. I think they'd be worth a try as a compromise between maneuverability and speed with the support of this a bit higher boot. So those are some things to consider with skates. And always remember, you can always just do it with what you got. You don't have to go out and fix everything up optimally, but as time goes along, these are some things you might consider. As far as skis go, if it's pure ice, but maybe not good enough for skates, I've experienced this. It can be too wet and the ice is like getting a bit mushy on the top. Then I'll put on my skis, or it's just too irregular or too many cracks, or it's got too much snow on it. Skis then can be much safer and handle the uneven ice or not quite totally safe ice. I use Giant Slalom racing skis, and I have sharp edges, and they hold quite well on ice. A lot of people don't get it. They think they just slide sideways, but with the right kind of skis, you can hold an edge on ice. And in my brain, racing skis are the best for that. What you don't want is you don't want a lot of side cut. You don't want like carving skis where they're just made to turn, like real quick and easy. You want skis that track better, and Giant Slalom or even downhill skis would be better at tracking than carving skis, and sharp edges help. Now when there's a bit of snow on top, I use these skis, which are like the main skis I use for snow kiting too. They do have good edges. They have a wide turning radius. Again, you don't want stuff that's like super turny, so they stay stable. So I have like 2 pairs of skis, and I just take the ones that seem to make the most sense for the conditions, and that will be based on the ice. Like to me, the best is nice, smooth, hard, safe ice, and a wing and skates. That's the best. But when you want to get out and still have fun when things aren't optimal, skis can save the day. And that's mostly it. I highly recommend it, and it's a ton of fun. And especially if you're doing wing foiling, you already have most of this gear. It's just to sort out some of the safety issues, so things you don't get into any big trouble, and get out there and enjoy the hard water as well. So I hope this has been helpful, and maybe someday I'll see you out there on the ice.